friends, I'm Pastor Kelly. Welcome to our year-long quest for spiritual formation with Brian McLaren's book, We Make the Road by Walking. Today's video will be on chapter 11. So if you haven't read chapter 11, now's your chance. And we're going to read from the New Testament today. Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 to 39. Go ahead and pause and then join us when you've done reading. All right. So far in Genesis and Exodus, we have discovered a lot of parts of God's story. Genesis was all about creation and crisis. God created, human sin made a crisis, God recreated, more crisis, etc. Now in Exodus, we're focused on calling and captivity. God called the Hebrew people, God called the Israelite people out of captivity to be God's chosen people in a new place. And so they get to live into this freedom. But throughout the Old Testament, these free people will consistently become enslaved again, captured, taken captive, and they will fight again to regain their freedom. This happens over and over again. The truth is that a lot of the Bible is really brutal and violent. We don't talk about it as kids. It's important to talk about it as adults. But a lot of us don't ever talk about the Old Testament. We just like to ignore all that violence and brutality and say, well, Jesus ended all of that in the New Testament. Well, God did come to proclaim a new gospel that we should not be connected to that violence and brutality, but we can't ignore that it happened. You see, 5,000 years ago, at the time of the Old Testament, Yahweh God was so much more compassionate than all the other gods. Yahweh was a God that came down the mountain to talk to people. Yahweh was a God who provided for them, who demanded animal sacrifices rather than people sacrifices, who wanted you to care about your family and your kids. For them, that was a really caring and compassionate God. And so what they heard when God made them promises is that God was making promises to them and then it was okay to hurt other people. God never said that, but that's what a lot of folks at that time thought. That if God loves us and is giving us the promised land, that must mean that it's okay for us to hate them. Jesus came and really changed a lot of those claims, explained a lot of things. See, Matthew's version of the story makes a confession that our ancestors, led by Moses and Joshua in Deuteronomy, you see, they believed that God sent them into the world to conquer, to show no mercy, to defeat and kill the enemies. But through Christ, God gives us a much higher mission. Because of Christ's sacrifice for us, we believe that God sends us into the world in compassion, to show mercy, to heal, to feed others, to nurture and protect life. You see, violence, like slavery and racism, it was always the norm. It's still the norm now. It's very common. As Christians, we're called to speak out against it, to use the story of Jesus' life to imagine a completely radical future. So this week, we get to talk about something fun in the comments. Can you think of a book or a movie or a TV show that upheld violence as the way to prosperity? That said that being violent was going to help people to win, to get ahead. Maybe you have an example from your life or a story that you've heard. And then, is there another alternative movie or book or story or TV show that you love because it points to a non-violent way forward? Because it shows that God's peace, God's love, God's revolutionary inclusion actually led us to the better future. I want to hear about your stories and your movies. Maybe we'll all get a really long list of movies to watch and books to read over the upcoming holiday break. Join us online for more discussion. I'm excited to hear from you.